Dating in 2023 has been crazy, no doubt about it. So you know what people have decided to do? Just throw a little bit more salt in the wounds. And in this video, we're going to react to a specific experience that two women share on the seemingly sudden switch up men have done. And we're going to further break down how this all relates to the biggest struggle in today's generation when it comes to relationships.
Tell him I got the juice.
It really just opened my eyes as to like how hurtful men are.
So I learned this lesson last year, and it's one I recommend everyone learn sooner rather than later. Just yesterday, a friend called me having a panic attack in her—
And before we continue, I'm actually going to react to the video that she stitched to prior to this. So just stick with me because she's going to drop some interesting things here.
car because her boyfriend had called her an hour before and said that he loved her, all of these nice things, and that his family can't wait to meet her for Thanksgiving. An hour and a half later, and this is no exaggeration on the timeline, called her back and said that he's a high-value man and that he can do better than her, but she will never be able to do better than him, and that it's over, and then hung up before she could even say anything.
Whoa. What? He did what?
That's suspicious.
That's a headache. That's awful. I'm so sorry that so many people have had to experience that, because that is terrible.
I've had friends where their date will leave in the middle of the date while they're in the bathroom. I've had friends whose boyfriends will break up with them on their birthday, on days of death, on graduation. Boyfriend.
Okay, they clearly don't have any I mean, there's just like not an ounce of respect in their bones to do that on I'm at a loss for words. I'm sorry. I'm trying to kind of figure this thing out. It's just, that's rough.
Taking other girls on their birthday trip. And this is just the last year. This is just 2023.
Jeez.
Personally, when this happened to me, I decided that I was going to take the next year to not date anybody, and it was the best decision that I could have ever made for myself. I accomplished every single goal that I had this year. Just bought a new car, about to move into a beautiful apartment, happiest I've ever been, more peace than I've ever felt. I'm surrounded by so many different types of love that I don't really feel like anything's missing. And that's not to say that I'll never date again. I'm literally sure that I will. But as a girl who has high standards and values, you cannot vet for a man blindsiding you. I consider myself like very like in the know, and it happened to me. Even looking back now, I'm like, I could have never predicted that. Be careful, invest in yourself. Just invest in yourself. The right person will come along, but be very picky. Do not let everybody just date you. It is not worth it. It is not worth your peace. It is not worth your time. Don't do it.
Yeah, so I agree with her last statement. I think it is very important, men and women. Okay, I know this is definitely directed to her experience from men, but I definitely agree. Hey, you should be very picky when you work on and I'm not just going to necessarily promote a message to work on you and self-help and all those kinds of things. No, I think you should lock in on your relationship with God, your relationship with your calling, and your relationship with capacity. Okay, locking in on those three things is actually what's going to help you have the capacity to contain, to support, to make room for when that right person comes along in your life, because you've been focusing on the right things, the right people, the right areas, and of course what you are called to put your hands to in order for that to happen. But this isn't just the only story. Okay, it's actually, believe it or not, I have a feeling it's actually going to get worse, because we're going to react to the original video that she stitched this to, and then kind of come together with what really this all reveals continuously, with really what is the issue with dating and dating culture in today's generation.
TikTok, and I really do not like long videos, but this is just something that's been weighing on my heart and my mind for a couple weeks. A couple weeks ago, something happened to me within a relationship, and it really just opened my eyes as to like how hurtful men are. I've known that for quite some time, but it's like men are so hurtful with no remorse.
Men can be hurtful. I wouldn't say all men are moving this way. And of course, this is just her speaking from her heart. So I'm not trying to necessarily be picky on all those kinds of things. I just think it is important to know that it's a human issue. It's a human heart kind of thing. And so it's not just men who are hurtful and crazy like this, because you can also go and listen to men who have shared pretty horrendous stories on what has happened from women that they've dealt with. And so it's a human heart issue. It's not just men. It's not just women.
No care in the world. Like they don't give a. And it's just becoming a little much for me. Last night was the nail in the coffin, though. I'm not doing a story time because I'm just not going to do that. But men are just so hurtful. And it's like, I no longer have a desire to get in a relationship. I no longer have the desire to get married. Damn near about to give up on my dreams of becoming a mom one day. Like,
That's sad. That's just, this is heartbreaking to hear. And I think this is just one of many cases, man. One of many cases. And this is really a huge influence, I guess, added on influence to the reason why this channel exists. Because not only is it women that are experiencing this, men are experiencing this too, where there's so much trending going around, so many experiences and so many things that are happening that are literally depleting your hope of actually wanting the relationship, the marriage, the family, those things that you've always wanted. And I just think it's important to know that the desire isn't wrong. And even though all of these experiences have taken place, I think there's a specific point of reference that we should always look to that not only helps us through tough times like these. I'm not going to say it makes it easier. It just helps you through it. But it's also a point of reference that allows us to carry the hope we have to one day create a bond with somebody that is a reflection of genuine love. And that's what we're going to really wrap all of this up. But let's finish this up.
I can't deal with it anymore, you guys. And I know y'all gonna be like, oh, take a break. I took a break all this year. I done read the self-help books. I done watched Shira 7. It's like, I actually want the love. I don't want to, you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to use a man for money. Like, don't want to just use him for what he could do for me, even though that's what they do to us. I just don't want to do that. It should not be this difficult. It's like, I'm not trying to have a disdain for men. I'm not trying to be a misandrist. I'm not trying to H-word men again, but it's like, how could you not? They are so hurtful. They are disrespectful, disloyal, rude, selfish. Think about nobody but themselves. And I'm sure there are some good men out there. I met one before. One. You guys are going to say, oh, maybe it's you. Because I know the men are going to come in and just put it all back on me. They're going to completely dismiss my feelings and put it back on me. I'm used to it. I'm the one actually in therapy working through things and stuff like that. You get what I'm saying? Having to go to therapy for people who won't go to therapy or who don't see any wrong in their behavior. God, I can't do it no more, you guys. I don't want to be involved with men anymore.
Yeah, so this is just a prevalent theme, a prevalent message, and I do want to make this reference too, because I definitely think there's room to contain the emotions, contain the feelings, and make room for that. Like, you feel how you feel, you don't apologize for that. That is just literally the emotions that you're dealing with. And I think that's actually a healthy part of the journey of healing from, heartbreaking moments and areas, spaces like that in your life where you do need to feel the emotions and you need to allow yourself to deal with that and just be present in that in order to get the healing you need. Pay attention to a lot of the descriptions she gives. Men are rude, selfish. They think of nobody but themselves. They are just all of these categories and these characteristics. And I know this may not be such an optimal time to point this out. I just think that there's often times where we paint people out to be a certain way that we see them as due to the pain that they've caused us. And sometimes it's what creates this bitterness in our heart from being able to actually put ourselves back in position to experience what we're really looking for, because based on previous experiences, this is what we're going to limit everybody else to. This is the ceiling. This is all that there is. And it outweighs the good. And I want you to just really consider two things. One, every description that she gave about the men that she's generalizing or from who she's experienced, there's moments in her own life, because she's a human being, because she has a human heart. Okay, she's been rude. She's been selfish. She has had moments where she was pretty cruel to somebody in some kind of capacity, where there was something she might have said or did that maybe she didn't put a whole lot of effort into considering how that person would receive it, how that person would feel about it. and the crushing that it possibly could have occurred. All of us as humans have the capacity to disappoint one another. All of us humans have the capacity to hurt one another. But the one thing that we are not going to allow ourselves to do this way is allow the things that have hurt us in those emotional moments to dictate the rest of our lives moving forward. And yes, we might need to go through some healing process, cry our tears, be frustrated, voice those things, and get around people who are going to help us through those processes. But the last thing we're going to do is allow that moment to then dictate the rest of our life, be molded into our character, and furthermore destroy the hopes that we have always had of creating healthy relationships and having the types of connections that we've always wanted. So I think this is what all of this reveals, more specifically on the men's part of things, of course, women too, but just from these videos, is that it's an identity problem. And so many young men, particularly today, have done nothing but had red pill community thought rattled in their mind that have encouraged them to take their rejection and then therefore use it as a weapon against women, and have now considered themselves high value men because they have a certain amount of money, because they're feeling themselves too much, all at the cost of devaluing the people in front of them in order to consider themselves a high valued person. And this is just backwards. And I think when you take your identity out of the hands of people and you put that into the hands of God, and you allow your relationship with God to be cultivated, to grow, and to really nurture that, I think that is really where you're actually going to be able to set your temperature on the right things, on the right places, on the right modes of thinking. And you're not going to be so willing, so quick to reveal yourself to be a high value man to somebody, and then furthermore tell them how they don't bring any value into your life. Because truth be told, for somebody to have to come and announce that they are a high value man is already a question in and of itself. Secondly, you feel you have to devalue somebody else in order to be put on that pedestal is very low character, and is actually somebody who's empty and not full of what they are projecting to others that they are full of. Men, we need to get into a place where we understand our value. And understanding our value is not ever getting to a place where we're allowing other people to tell us who we should or shouldn't be, but we're allowing our designer, creator, and having a relationship with him to guide us into a place where we are comfortable with who we are and whose we are. We are connected to purpose. We are connected to intrinsic value, and we no longer need others to tell us who we are and then find our way into molding into that to please other people based off of lies and misconceptions, to say the least. So my encouragement to you is to not lose hope. To not lose hope. In fact, I've got a passage of scripture I want to remind you of if you're somebody who can reflect on a lot of the emotions that these two ladies have experienced, even in your own journey. Psalms 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. I want to encourage you through this verse that the Lord is with you. You're not alone. And this is a perfect opportunity. Yes, you can work on you. Yes, you can do the healing processes. That is all encouraged. But do not forsake your foundation, your belief system, your value system. Do not forsake Christ in this space, because he's the one that's actually going to heal you and prepare you for the relationships that you are actually needing to be connected to get to where you're going. It's probably the easiest thing in those moments to lose hope, give up on everything. But I'm reminded of somebody else in passage of scripture who felt as if she was pretty close to giving up on hope. And maybe it wasn't in a dating relationship, but I'm going to take this text and imply the truth that's placed here that I think can give you some encouragement. And really this is found in the story of Hannah. 1 Samuel chapter 1, start at verse 1. There was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zuphite from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, and Ephraimite. He had two wives, one who was called Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. Okay, so I want to skip down as we get some context there to verse 6. Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb. Okay, so the Lord closed, she wasn't able to have children. Her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. Her rival being the other wife, Peninnah. Okay, this went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. Her husband Elkanah would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? Once, when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house. In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. And she made a vow saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head. As she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk and said to her, how long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine. Not so, my Lord. Hannah replied, I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been praying here out of my great anguish and grief. Eli answered, go in peace, and may God, the God of Israel, grant you what you have asked of him. She said, may your servant find favor in your eyes. And she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Okay. And then actually we learn as the story finishes, or this section, verse 19, early the next morning, they arose and worshiped before the Lord and then went back to their home at Ramah. Elkanah made love to his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. So in the course of time, Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, because I asked the Lord for him. Okay. Now, again, I just want to take what we see out of this text and imply a message of truth that is seen here. Hannah is in a space where she is rivaled with the wife or the other wife of her husband. Hannah can have children, Hannah can't. And she's reminded of this so much that it brings her tears. It brings her brokenheartedness to the point where she goes to God in prayer, seeks God for a son, and promises, vows to make him to give him back, right? If God were to bless her with it, and we see the Lord comes through. And maybe this is a place where you're at, where you see so many beautiful relationships. You see so many people who are seemingly happy on social media through all their relationships. And it just makes you crave that so much more, but yet you're still potentially reminded of your reality. You're reminded of where you are. You're reminded of your previous experiences and encounters with other people who have hurt you in some kind of way, that have actually put you in a particular position that you may find yourself in today. And you may feel like you've lost all hope. And you may feel like Hannah did, where you're just reminded over and over again, and it feels like the hope bar has just dripped to its final level and there's almost nothing left for you to do. What Hannah does here, I want to encourage you to do, not just to pray about finding the one, not just to pray about getting that one relationship, but I want you to pray and ask God to give you the heart to try relationships again. I want you to go into prayer to seek God's face and ask him to give you the strength, give you the wisdom to heal and restore you in a way that you can then go out and step out to create relationships again, to give them a try again, because relationships, y'all, is so important in our lives. And I'm not saying you have to be married. I'm not saying you have to go have a romantic relationship, but relationships with people and connections is so important and vital to our walk with God. And to abandon those because of previous hurts and pains, because of being reminded of being single by being on social media for so long, and all these things that we feel we're without, we don't have to focus in on that to the point where that becomes the only thing we're reminded of, that becomes our identity, that becomes our lasting hope. And then therefore we have nothing left to really bank on. I want you to place your faith in God. I want you to go to prayer. I want you to really seek his face and pour your heart out to God. Tell him about your frustrations. Tell him about all the emotions that you're feeling. Tell him about all those experiences that he already knows has happened and has taken place in your life, and give God the space to really work on your heart and to restore you and to give you that heart of seeking relationships again. And I truly believe that just as God answered Hannah, seemingly in the text, he answered her pretty fast. I'm not telling you that God's going to answer you the next day, the next morning, the next night. But what I am telling you is that God hears your prayers. God has the capacity to answer and deliver on your prayers. And I really do believe that God can restore the brokenness in your heart, the hopelessness that you feel, and give you that spark again to try relationships again and to move forward into trusting God with whatever relationships he gives you to steward and give back to him. It's not it for you. It's not over for you. We just need to come to the right source. We need to come to the right person. We need to come to Jesus and allow him to deal with our hearts so gently and so gracefully, to not only tell us what relationships are all about, but also deal with us in the brokenness that we're coming to him in order to truly find our identity in him, so that regardless of what others do to us or fail to do for us, It doesn't change who he is and the love he has for us and the love that we are called to live in. When our point of reference for relationships, when our point of reference for love is Jesus, there will always be hope to make connections that we may have never thought we could at one point or another. But when our point of reference is pain, hopelessness is the result. Listen, if you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe, like this video, share this with a friend who can relate to the stories that these ladies have shared, and also be reminded of the right point of reference to carry for the relationships that we ultimately desire to have in our lives. And until our next conversation, be easy and be breezy, my friend. Hey, peace.